It's a very, very dark day for any democracy. Because by now, viewers, unfortunately, you would have had to see the horrific pictures from Manipur. I hope for your sake that you didn't have to. But it would be a disservice to avert our eyes. Because it is a disservice to our country to ignore what happened in the state. An attack where women were stripped, paraded naked, and then gang raped. The attack took place on the 4th of May in the Thubal district, and a zero FIR was registered on the 18th of the month in Kangpokpi district. Yet, for the last 77 days since the rape and murder took place, no arrests had been made by the Manipur police. It's only after the video of the disrobing and assault on women was circulated on social media late on Wednesday night that the Manipur police jumped into action and made its first arrest. A 32-year-old was picked up today afternoon in a combing operation. But what about the others? What about the hundreds of others who made up that mob? All of this started on the 4th of May, just a day after violence first broke out in Manipur. A photograph of a young woman's body wrapped in a plastic bag went viral. It was falsely claimed that this photograph was of a Manipuri woman who had been raped and killed. And thanks to the fake news that was circulated by a few, what followed was a terrible, terrible cycle of retribution. A mob then attacked a village armed with automatic weapons, looting and burning everything that came in their way. A family of 5 people, 3 women and 2 men, tried to escape towards a forest. They thought they were safe once the police had rescued them from the forest. But even as they were on their way to the police station, they were intercepted by that same frenzied mob who dragged out the terrified 5 persons of a family. All 3 women were stripped. The youngest woman's father was killed immediately. And 2 of them, a teenager and a 40-year-old, were marched naked to an adjoining field where the youngest woman was then brutally gang raped. All of this is described in the FIR. When her teenage brother tried to intervene, he also was lynched by the mob. This orgy of rape and murder happened 77 days ago. And today, 77 days later, 1 man has been arrested. Today, on the first day of the monsoon session, as the entire country reacted with revulsion, the Prime Minister slammed the crime as a blot on humanity, promising no mercy and no forgiveness. But both houses of Parliament were adjourned repeatedly. The opposition questioned inaction on part of the centre and the state.
आज जब मैं आपके बीच आया हूं, इस लोकतंत्र के मंदिर के पास खड़ा हूं, तब मेरा हृदय पीड़ा से भरा हुआ है, क्रोध से भरा हुआ है। मणिपुर की जो घटना सामने आई है, पाप करने वाले, गुनाह करने वाले कितने हैं, कौन है, वो अपनी जगह पे है, लेकिन बेइज्जती पूरे देश की हो रही है। 140 करोड़ देशवासियों को शर्मसार होना पड़ रहा है। मैं सभी मुख्यमंत्रियों से आग्रह करता हूं कि वे अपने राज्य में कानून व्यवस्था को और मजबूत करें, खास करके हमारी माताओं बहनों की रक्षा के लिए कठोर से कठोर कदम उठाएं। घटना चाहे राजस्थान की हो, घटना चाहे छत्तीसगढ़ की हो, घटना चाहे मणिपुर की हो, इस देश में, हिंदुस्तान के किसी भी कोने में, किसी भी की राज्य सरकार में राजनीतिक वाद विवाद से ऊपर उठ करके कानून व्यवस्था का महात्म्य, नारी का सम्मान, और मैं देशवासियों को विश्वास दिलाना चाहता हूं, किसी भी गुनहगार को बख्शा नहीं जाएगा। कानून अपनी पूरी शक्ति से, पूरी सख्ती से एक के बाद एक कदम उठाएगा। मणिपुर की इन बेटियों के साथ जो हुआ है, इसको कभी माफ नहीं किया जा सकता है।
The Chief Minister spoke out today and said that they are going to seek capital punishment for all of the accused. The centre even offered to hold a debate on the Manipur issue inside Parliament, but to no avail. Now sources say all opposition parties are contemplating sending an all-party delegation to Manipur. The disruptions led to a fresh jousting between both sides, with the government questioning the timing and the intent of the video, as well as the disruptions that followed.
मेरा सवाल सोनिया गांधी जी और राहुल गांधी जी से भी है कि क्या आपने कभी ये जो पति के सामने गैंगरेप वीडियो वायरल किया गया और चुनाव के कारण पुलिस ने नहीं दिखाया, राजस्थान की घटना है, क्या राजस्थान में जो महिलाओं के खिलाफ अत्याचार बलात्कार हो रहा है, क्या उसको लेकर सोनिया गांधी जी, राहुल गांधी और विपक्ष क्या मूक दर्शक बनकर बैठा रहेगा?
आज हम जुलाई में है ना, तो मई के पहले वीक की घटना एकाएक ट्विटर पे एक दिन पहले आ जाती है। ये क्या है? सदन के शुरू होने के एक दिन पहले और फिर हंगामा शुरू हो जाता है। When a particular incident is surrounded with a lot of mystery and suspicious circumstances about the timing part, then you can draw your own conclusion.
मणिपुर के ऊपर हम भी बहुत संवेदनशीलता से चर्चा करना चाहते हैं। सभी की बातें सदन में आए, इसके लिए सरकार तैयार है। लेकिन दुर्भाग्य है कि कांग्रेस, तृणमूल कांग्रेस, बाकी विपक्षी दल शायद अपने खोट छुपाने के लिए चर्चा से भाग रही है, चर्चा नहीं करना चाहती है और कार्रवाई के सुचारू चलने में अड़चनें डाल।
But the very basic and important questions today are still not answered. Why did it take 77 days? Why did it take this video that has shaken the country for the state government to wake up? Can they simply palm off blame? What explains this inaction on a crime so heinous? And now with these memories and this distrust, how will there be a reconciliation between communities? Beyond the politics, who is going to help Manipur heal and how? Joining us on the show, we have Aparajita Sarangi, MP and national spokesperson of the BJP, Rami Desai, author and political analyst, Pawan Verma, former MP and author, Sanjay Jha, also an author, and Pradyot Manekya, founder of the Tipra party. But my first question is to Major Amit Bansal, who is a veteran and an expert of geopolitical affairs, somebody who's had extensive experience in the Northeast as well. Major Bansal, the one thing that is truly horrifying about this, other than the heinousness of the crime, is that this is an area which is matrilineal. This was never known to have such crimes against women where rape is being used as a weapon of war, a weapon of conflict. What changed in Manipur? What changed in the Northeast that we are forced, that we are seeing this? These images are unimaginable.
Padmaja, I would like to tell you about three things which have created this a big divide. First and foremost is the continuous ignorance of the hill area. If you see Manipur, the 10% of the area is valley area and whereas the 90% of the area is hill. But out of the 7 universities of Manipur, not even a single one is located in the hill area. Out of the 3 medical institutes available in Manipur, none of them is available, none of them is located in the hill area. In hill area, the hospitals which are there, the district hospitals, are not even capable of carrying out minor surgeries. There is no road network except the 3 main roads. One is the More Road, one is the Jiribam Road, and the third one is the Senapati Road, which are actually the lifelines of the Manipur. Not even a single major road passes through the hill areas. So hill areas have been continuously been ignored. That is first of all, where the tribes are staying. Now we come to the current incident. So where this incident has happened, the violence started on 3rd of May. There are a lot of things have happened before that. Already there was a trust gap between the communities because of the non-development, because of the continuous ignorance of a particular community. Then they came up with the Forest Act, started displacing people from the forest areas. Then they came up with another act that Meiteis are now going to be included in the ST, which further infuriated Kuki people. Again, there was a trust gap. These things could have been executed by taking the people of other communities in confidence. But it did not happen. It came as a bombshell. So the trust gap started increasing. The last and the most important thing is the rumor mongering. Soon after the incident started, soon after the first violence erupted in Lamka, Churachandpur, so many videos, so many rumors started circulating. I saw some of the videos on social media where people are saying 200 Meitei women have been raped. So now people have to come up and take a revenge. There are some women, some Mirapai people are narrating on video. I saw
Do you think
them
this
on Twitter.
fake news is being maliciously spread, deliberately spread to exacerbate the trust gap?
Exactly. So I have a strong feeling that certainly there is some external force which is trying to create a divide in Manipur, because the way these this rumor, the way these this malicious news they spread, it spread very, very fast, and like a fire. And by the time anybody could have contained it, it already created gaps, it already created groups, it already created so much of hatred in the minds of the people that it is now irreparable.
So tell me this, Aprajita Sarangi, one is the containment. You shut down internet in Manipur. You said that this is the kind of rumor mongering that needs to be arrested. But what about action? You knew that this has happened. The zero FIR had been filed even though it was filed 14 days after the crime. Why has it taken for a leaked video and social media outrage for the government of Manipur to wake up?
A very good evening. Whatever has happened should not have happened, and I don't think anybody can absolve himself or herself of the responsibility. I think 140 crore people would be having their heads hung in shame, and I think that's what Honorable Prime Minister said today. He said, "My heart is filled with pain and anger, no mercy, nobody would be spared." So he was very clear as to what the government would be doing. But at the same time, I understand the passions are running high. We are as sad as others are. But let me tell you that as far as the Ministry of Home Affairs is concerned, as far as the central government and state governments are concerned, we had been doing our bit. Situation was bad in Manipur for the past 77 days, I agree. But then please don't forget that our Home Minister was there for a couple of days from 29th May to 1st June.
Ma'am, I have a very simple question.
A Sarvadaliya Baitak
Yes,
on
sure,
24th of June.
course. All party meeting has been done.
And
the visit has happened. That still doesn't take away from the fact. Ma'am, I'm sorry to interrupt you. That still doesn't take away from the fact that the first arrest from a mob of 1,000 has happened 77 days later. Does the state government have an answer for why?
See, we wanted to answer all these questions on the floor of the House today. Now, I think it's an elected government to Prime Minister Modi, and we are answerable to the people of the country, and we wanted to discuss the matter on the floor of the House. We have answers to all the questions that are being asked on various TV channels. Now, I am a member of the Lok Sabha. I was sitting there when it all happened. We wanted to speak, we wanted to talk, we wanted to tell our viewpoints, we wanted to tell what precautions we had taken and why did it happen and how do we prevent and what are the measures that would be taken, were we allowed? Now, this is not the time, Padmaja, but please allow me to say with a full conviction at my command, I say this, that there is a pattern.
A conspiracy from it, rather than, like the Prime Minister, unreservedly express shock and grief and hang his head in shame like all Indians at what has happened. That's point number one. Point number two, I think there are some occasions when political rivalry should cease. A video of this kind, and I'm not saying that atrocities against women happen only in Manipur. Let us say a video of this kind comes out which shocks the conscience of the nation. Why could not Parliament invoking Rule 267, suspend other discussion and have a discussion immediately with not only the Home Minister, but with the Prime Minister participating. Frankly, and I am not in any political party, so I don't speak with bias, I am surprised at the Prime Minister's silence on a sensitive border state like Manipur for the last 77 days. It has been going on. People are dying, the state is burning, and the one person who has the greatest influence on the national scene neither visits the state nor makes a statement. Prime Ministers lead from the front. So I think, frankly, the Prime Minister, after his statement outside Parliament, should have come in and said, let us collectively discuss this. And last point, I'll take 20 seconds. You see, Padmaja, please understand, there is somewhere a very serious development taking place of disturbing the ethno-religious balance in India in different sectors. Now look at Manipur. Two communities were living relatively in peace for years. The Kukis have been there for 5 centuries. But the Metis are largely Hindus and allowed to be handled in that manner should make us think twice whether political power is more important or the overall national good of the country.
Sir, with the greatest of respect, a very strange part of the politics around Manipur also is the demographic description that is being given as a clash between communities, which also where one community is being underlined as if it's between two separate religions. Major Bansal, would you like to quickly clarify that? Because a lot of disinformation is happening around the fact about, what the Metis are or what the Kukis are. Would you want to clarify that?
Yes. So there is a very, very big misconception which is spreading around and which are projecting Metis as pure Hindus. So let me clarify is Metis is a community. Among the Metis you will find Muslims. So about 30% of the Metis are Muslims, which are called as Metis Pangals. About 20-25% of them are Metis Christians. They bear the same title, they bear the same surname, but they are Metis Christians. You can't identify them from names. A large number, maybe around 20-25% or maybe 30% of Metis they follow a different kind of religion. They call it Sanamahi, which is the old religion, and they follow a god called Pakhanba and all. So this is the third part of Metis. And the fourth part, which is barely about 20-25%, are the Hindus, which you can call them. So Metis, technically, if you see and if you see as a description, it is a community which has got Muslims, which has got Christians, which has got Sanamahis, and which has got Hindu Metis.
So it's unfair to try and project this as a clash between Christians and Hindus, which is being done not just in India, but globally.
I also would like to mention one more thing.
You must give me a chance to rebut.
I will, sir. Yes.
I just like to, when you talk about the Christianity of Kukis, indeed, almost all of them have converted to Christianity, but their Christianity is hybrid. I saw them when you go to their churches, they do offer the sacrifices, they go and dance inside the churches. So they have mixed up their old tribal religion with the Christianity. So it is a mix up of that.
Okay. Quick response, Mr. Verma, sir, and then I want to bring in Pradit as well. Mr. Pawan.
I respect I respect Major's opinion. He is a man who has been on the field. But I think neither he or anyone will deny that there was an ethnic divide between the Metis and the Kukis, a delicate balance as part of the overall tapestry of different communities in the Northeast, which was disturbed. And that is the consequence of, I believe, a consistent process of otherizing the minority Kuki community under the garb of immigration, drugs, and encroachment of forest land. And the resentments were building up, and the chief minister, instead of brokering peace in a neutral manner, became, in my view, a partisan. a partisan arbitrator, and allowed things to spiral out of control.
Ravi Desai and Pradyut Manikya. Ravi Desai, to you first. Is this trust deficit because of the way in which this has been handled, as Mr. Verma says, by the state government?
Good evening, Padmaja. I think there are a few points of rebuttal that I would like to make to Mr. Verma. First of all, I'm glad that it has been clarified that this has nothing to do with religion, that Meiteis are not one homogeneous religion. Number two, I would like to point out to Mr. Verma that 40 versus 53% is not a minority-majority sort of dynamic. Number three, this is not a new conflict. This has nothing to do, at least the genesis of the conflict has nothing to do with any political party. These are historical, legacied conflicts. There have been conflicts in multiple permutations and combinations in the state of Manipur for time immemorial. You know, whether it was the Kuki Peti, whether it was the Kuki Nagas, we've seen some vicious violence in Manipur, unfortunately. So, you know, the other point that I want to also make to him is that, you know, the petition that was put into the High Court was put in 2013, so it has nothing to do with what is happening right now, you know, and the High Court solely cannot decide on whether a community should get tribal status or not. It just made a suggestion. All vested parties that reacted to this also would have known that beyond the state government also it has many, many processes and it takes many, many years for this sort of inclusion. You know, so we have to look at it for exactly what it is. You know, it is ethnic tensions that that were flared up. There was a prolonged emotional impact that happened. We also saw a tapering of violence, you know, of course, you know, condemning today's, what I saw today in the video, you know, the events that came out, condemning all the violence that happened in the first month. The fact of the matter also is that it was tapering down. The fact of the matter also is that there are over 40,000 troops on the ground, you know. This isn't a question.
Was it tapering down because so many booths were brought on the ground, or was it tapering down because there was a genuine controlling of the situation? If you've got automatic arms which are in the hands of the civilian population, if you have people who have committed a crime still walking free, can we actually say that the situation is tapering down, or it's a false calm? I just want to quickly update our viewer. The Manipur Chief Minister has just announced that the second arrest has taken place in this particular episode. Yes, please answer that. Is this a false calm? If people who are criminals are not arrested, if the arms that have been looted are not recovered, what kind of normalcy are we talking about?
Padmaja, in situations like this, the first and foremost step that has to be taken is towards peace. Communities have to come to some relative peace wherein there isn't violence against each other. You know, of course, this kind of delay in response is unacceptable, and that sort of accountability we are demanding for. And I think we are demanding for that sort of accountability across political lines or, you know, community lines. But the fact of the matter is that incidents of violence had reduced. There was some sense of normalcy. Schools had reopened, you know, so on and so forth. Of course, this is not an ideal situation, and I think for us to come to an ideal situation, it's going to take, we are going to have to take a very hard look at the situation that we've allowed to conspire. But also, I think this is the point where we also have to look at the kind of role that civil society will just have to make. I've been saying this from day one, that, you know, we have to take, civil society has to also take responsibility into their own hands. Remember, right at the beginning, we saw these banners that said we want a solution before peace. This sort of haggling with the government or holding the rule of law at ransom cannot go on. Civil society has to play the role that, you know, we expect it to play as a civilized society, which
Pradyut,
I am not seeing. Manipur is known for its CSOs, by the way. There are dime a dozen CSOs, you know, but we have not seen one CSO come up that has members from both the communities that is calling to an end for violence. And unfortunately, prolonged violence results in some of the most heinous crimes that we have seen.
Pradyut
And that is
Manekya,
what
so
is happening
how
in
can there be a
Manipur,
conversation?
So this
Can there be a
deficit of trust-
resolution with civil society organizations and the state coming together? Is that possible? You're muted. Can you please unmute yourself?
Am I muted? I'm not muted.
Yes, we can hear you now. Please go on.
First of all, I thought I was invited to discuss about the crime which happened to the ladies here in Manipur and then discuss about civil society. I think we have slightly gone away from the subject. Let me first tell you, we are discussing this matter today after 77 days because in a small state like Manipur, no action was taken till this video went viral. Mr. Prasad can talk about the timing, but it is if the Chief Minister, who is also the Home Minister, had dealt with this incident a lot earlier, this wouldn't have been the case. Today, there is a perception and there is a reality in the ground that a particular community is being preferred over another. And this perception has been created by nobody else but the person sitting at the top, at the helm of the affairs. This has not been articulated by me, but also the 7 Kuki MLAs who have said the same about the Chief Minister. Coming back to civil society, I am probably the only one who is from the Northeast, but I have heard the Major. He's got in-depth knowledge about Manipur, and I appreciate that. It is it's wonderful to hear someone so well informed about Manipur. I agree with him largely. And the question is whether the divide is so far that we cannot bring it together. The truth is that the divide has been accentuated for political petty gains. Now, if as a Northeasterner, let me tell you something. Whenever there has been an attack on our women from the Northeast in mainland India, I'm one of the first people to come out and condemn it. But today, as a Northeasterner, I feel sick in my stomach. I feel, if you feel repulsed that in our own backyard, this is the way we have treated our women. What is the way of dealing with this? The only way is that the heads must roll. Police must be held accountable. The Home Minister, who also happens to be the Chief Minister, must be held accountable. And if you want to bring in peace, then somebody will have to step away so that both communities can come and sit together and a larger dialogue can take place. Only the Prime Minister of India, can do so. But if he has to do so, he will have to pull up the Chief Minister of Manipur.
The demand is Anitu Vokala. Prajita Sarangi, answer. Heads must roll.
Of course, heads must roll. I'm not saying no to that. But then at the same time, I would say that this is the time when we need to have law and order restored there. We want to win back the confidence of the people. There has to be peace there. So at this time, no instability should be advocated. My earnest appeal to everyone, no instability at this stage would actually resolve the problem. See, arrests are going on. The Prime Minister has very candidly said today that nobody would be spared.
Ma'am, arrests have happened after 77 days. We have to open our eyes and call a spade a spade. I am sorry. We can pontificate all we want, madam, but 77 days is 77 days too late.
Padmaja, please give me 1 minute.
Okay, 1 minute. 1 minute to Pradyut, yes.
As far as the government is concerned,
ma'am, 1 minute, let him please rebut. I'll come back to you.
My only thing is, we don't want this to become a political ball game. The Prime Minister should ask the Chief Minister to step aside and ask for all parties concerned and hold all party between Maitais and the Kukis to come and bring in a resolution. But the person who is in charge of law and order in the state of Manipur is the Chief Minister himself. A certain section of the community doesn't think he's fair. Appoint another Maitai as the Chief Minister, there is no problem. Appoint him from the BJP, there is no problem. But this man has to step aside so that there is a sense of normalcy and justice. If you do not give a sense of justice to the people, nothing will happen. This divide is too far, too deep, and this experiment will spread to other parts of Northeast. We also in Tripura, in parts of Nagaland, Mizoram, are worried that this experiment in Manipur may not reach out beyond its borders.
It's important what is being said here, that this is almost like Manipur, Major Bansal, is being turned into a test case. And there are many, many powers who would want Manipur and other states in the Northeast destabilized. It's not mere coincidence that you've had incidents of automatic rifles being looted. There are automatic weapons in the hands of civilians right now.
Yes, Padmaja, there is a very important issue. More than 4,000 weapons, and these are automatic weapons. These are Kalashnikovs, these are Insas rifles, machine guns, grenade launchers, even mortars. They have been looted away. 4,000 plus weapons. It's not a small amount. 4,000 plus weapons have been looted away from the armories of Manipur police and their training centers. No head has rolled till now, no arrest has been made till now. Even when CBI went to do an inquiry for that, CBI team was sent for an inquiry, they were not allowed by the locals to enter the premises of Manipur Police Training Center, Pangai. Now, who is responsible for this? Where are these 4,000 weapons? Here we are not talking about, there's one thing which is ethnic conflict, and there is something which is national security. Ethnic conflict, we can resolve it. We can get the communities together. Maybe these wounds will heal in the due course of time. But what will happen to the national security? These weapons might have already fallen hands. They've already crossed the border, might have crossed the border and fallen in the hands of the anti-national elements. What will happen to 4,000 plus weapons? And all of them are sophisticated automatic weapons. Number two, second thing which is more important is Manipur is just not an ordinary border state. Manipur is going to be the gateway of India's ambitious eastern corridor, which will pass through Manipur, Myanmar and Thailand. Now, why it is important, I must tell you. Today, when we are talking about ASEAN countries, they are a big captive market for China. If we are able to send Indian goods by the road to the ASEAN market, our goods will be much cheaper than Chinese goods. China will lose this market. And the only way to disrupt this progress is to create unrest and peace. So there is high possibility of a Chinese angle also. We must investigate on that. But we have to talk about external factors. We have to talk about the national security, and we have to talk about the internal ethical
But if you want to fob off external factors, first you need to have internal stability, Rami Desai, and for that there needs to be internal accountability. And if you've got people from Manipur, people from Tripura saying that there is a sense of distrust with the establishment, how can there be stability? I'm just coming to you after this, Sanjay Jha. Rami Desai.
Padmaja, you'll have to repeat that.
My question is that when you anyway have external factors wanting to destabilize you, how can you get any kind of stability unless you have internal issues worked out? If there are crimes which are not addressed, if there is a sense of distrust towards the establishment and the state, how can you have stability?
Padma, that's a very good question. But, in situations like this, in states like this that have porous borders, as we already know, these are very complex states and have their own sort of dynamics. It's not possible to look at one thing over the other. You have to look at both things together, because it is very well possible, and we have seen this before, that a lot of insurgencies, a lot of internal conflicts have been funded by external agencies, or they have had support of external agencies or foreign hands, or they have used their bases as bases to train for insurgencies in the country. So, one cannot say that, oh, only if we have perfect peace within the state will we be able to look at external factors, because the role of external factors is to destabilize any sort of peace. And as we saw in Manipur in the last 6 years, 7 years, there was relative peace, and I have been traveling and I've been on research in these areas for over 15 years, and I have seen what it was, what it became, and sadly today what it is. And you know, the fact of the matter is that this is not the kind of you know, what we aspire to be. We aspire to have a really strong Northeast. We aspire
So
Manipur
what is
to
the
become
problem?
the gateway to Southeast Asia.
What has changed in the last 3 years then?
Just by the incentive.
If the CM is the same, what has changed over the last few years? What has changed? If you're saying there was relative peace,
and that is something, Padmaja, that absolutely there was relative peace. I saw entrepreneurship in the state. I saw curfews lifted. I saw, you know, when I used to not see a certain age group of children in the state post school, I saw them in the state in the last 6 years. You know, we all know restaurants came up, hotels came up, infrastructure got better. Look at the amount of flights that are to Manipur today. Once upon a time, there wasn't a single direct flight to Imphal.
But then how are we at this stage where women are being stripped and assaulted? We can have all the flights, but women being assaulted, how do we come to here?
Absolutely. One should have never come to this point. And, you know, unfortunately, and I don't say this dispassionately because my heart goes out as anybody else's heart goes out for this, but in conflict areas, in violent situations, you know, the most heinous crimes occur. And unfortunately for us, it occurs largely towards the vulnerable groups that are the women and the children. And this is what we've seen happen, because eventually what happens, you know, this sort of sense of great amount of community loyalty and standing up for the community eventually gets taken over by the criminal minded, by the miscreants. You know, the panelist before me said that there are 4,000 weapons, automatic weapons floating around. Actually, 1,500 have been surrendered. Yes, there are weapons floating around. Those are not automatic weapons. They're old, rusted weapons. One must ask these questions as to who is fueling this fire. Where are these weapons coming from? If they're state-of-the-art automatic weapons, they're not from Manipur. You know, they're coming from across
There is
the
already
border.
a situation.
What are the motives? What are the intentions?
Okay, there is already a situation, Sanjay Jha. Can it be contained now? Or should it be exacerbated thanks to political wrangling?
Padmaja, you have come to me after a while. So I have heard every panelist, and I would like to give a succinct response, and I would appreciate if I'm not interrupted. Point number one, the latest that I read is an Indian Express report. I think I need to update all the panelists. And the Indian Express report, they spoke, by the way, to one of the women who was stripped, paraded naked, and gang raped. And she has said on record to the Indian Express that the police actually left them to be violated by the mob. And that, I think, is a very serious accusation here. Because who does the police report to? The Chief Minister, who, by the way, speaking to another channel today, said there were hundreds of such cases. Which brings us to the point that Ravi Shankar Prasad today and the BJP, Mr. Modi, they should cut out this crocodile tears, and we are hearing too much of this motherhood and apple pie rhetoric on your show. And let me try and explode them for you, because this is a very serious subject. I speak both as a politician and as a very concerned citizen of this country. Here is the point, that if this incident happened on May 4th, and we all know that Mr. Modi and Mr. Shah were busy campaigning in Karnataka, why did it take so long for this reality to be surfaced? Is Biren Singh so incompetent that he did not know till the social media post happened? And if he did, what was he doing about it for 77 days? I think the Prime Minister of India will have to answer that. To expect Biren Singh to resign is expecting like Donald Trump to start reading the Bible tomorrow. Let's not get into that trip. Let's ask hard questions.
The government said today that they are willing to have this conversation. But this conversation can happen inside Parliament. And if the Parliament doesn't function, there will be no conversation.
Hang on, Padmaja. The Supreme Court of India today has said that if the government of Mr. Modi and the state do not act, the Supreme Court will. I want to ask a question, and this is for all your viewers, because I don't think this is a subject that can be looked at from a political prism. Okay, there are women being raped and paraded naked, for God's sake. And I think this country needs to be angry. Okay, there's no time here to sit and listen to some crappy hyperbole. Okay, let's answer this question here. that I want to know, why did she take 15 days to get an FIR registered in Manipur? And how can the chief minister even go to sleep well tonight? I want to ask the Prime Minister, why did it take him so long to answer? Was it because of the Supreme Court saying, I was so about to take cognizance of what's going on in Manipur? I mean, this is beyond politics here. I think we are talking about basic governance. I mean, Pradyot raises a very valid point. I mean, what will people in the Northeast and the rest of the country think of the kind of governance we have in our country? And I
answer this, Aparajita Sarangi. Today the Chief Minister said, as soon as we saw the video, we took suo moto cognizance. This is the Chief Minister of a state. He doesn't need to find a video on social media to find out what happened. Did his entire administration not know of the FIR before he saw the video? So motherhood statements count for little.
I entirely agree that, punitive steps should have been taken earlier, and in fact situation should have been such in Manipur that women would not have been violated to this extent. There is absolutely no
nothing
denial.
was done even after
we
they were violated.
In self-defense, we have heard
and the Chief Minister, as Sanjay Jha rightly said, today admitted that unfortunately these two ladies weren't the only ones. The Chief Minister of Manipur said hundreds of such FIRs have been registered. He himself admitted to hundreds of such women being violated. Do we even know if there are arrests made in any of those hundreds of FIRs?
We want to answer all these questions. We want to answer all these questions actually plaguing the minds of the people, and rightly so, on the floor of the House. Will the party of Sri Sanjay Jha allow us? Will other parties who are with them allow us? We want to answer all the questions, not on TV channels.
Answer. Both Sanjay Jha and Mr. Verma. Both.
To tell us to
Padmaja,
they want to give answers, they are saying.
Padmaja, let me answer Aparajita ji here. Over 120 people are dead, madam. I don't know what the exact number is because the government will never tell us what the real numbers are. But let's go with 120. That's 120 Indians are slaughtered. I'm not even talking about who's responsible, but they're dead. There are over 50,000 displaced not living in their home. There are people who are terrified about what they're going to do tomorrow. And you are telling me here that the problem is that the opposition is not letting you talk in parliament. I mean, how absolutely farcical and hypocritical can you be?
Aparajita Sarangi.
See, the point remains that in the last 77 days, the central government and the state government have been working earnestly. I understand whatever has happened should not have happened. Please don't forget that Act East is the policy of Prime Minister Modi's government. The last 9 years, he has gone there 50 times.
Northeast.
And all these central ministers put together have gone there 400 times.
Please stop campaigning. This is not the time to do an election campaign.
Let us not forget that development has taken place in all spheres.
Okay, I'll give you the final word, Mr. Bansal.
Which should not have happened.
Ma'am, with due regards, what I see here on this panel is a
in the Lok Sabha. Please,
yes, go on, please.
Okay, ma'am, what I see on this panel, the ruling party and the opposition party are talking about, okay, we'll answer it in Lok Sabha, we'll answer it over. I have few questions. And I, being a veteran, I want to ask you a few questions. You said that for last 77 days, or since when the violence has started in the hill state of Manipur, the government, state government and central government is working together to bring the normalcy. Hardcore 12 terrorists who were involved in the ambush on 6 Jogra in 2015 were freed by the mob. How many heads have rolled? 4,000 weapons have been looted from the armory of government armory, and they were literally handed over to the mob. How many heads have rolled? So much of violence has been happening. Hundreds of FIRs have been registered. Hundreds of FIRs have been registered. Not even a single arrest has been made. Today the arrest has been made only because the video has been made viral on the social media. Other than that, no arrests have been made. So how many heads have rolled? So somebody has to take responsibility of these things.
It ultimately boils down to accountability, ma'am.
See, I did not want to name the person but I'm forced to do that. He's talking of 4,000 weapons. I can say 11,763 weapons and 896 ammunitions have been recovered by the police, and this figure pertains to 10th of June, and the figures have been given by the security advisor Kuldeep Singh. I didn't want to mention this person, but here is the fact. So recovery did take place. Dr. Sri Amit Shahji, our Honorable Home Minister, did go there and did try to kind of, take all kinds of steps to ensure that the state government was given the kind of support that was desired. 40,000 troops on the ground, 11 political parties had been spoken to. People
ma'am, you're saying that honest action is being taken, but at the end of the day, I think it's quite clear from everyone that we've heard so far that accountability, or at least the sense of accountability being fixed, is definitely missing. Everyone is angry, should be angry about what we saw today, and even though this is a terribly, terribly unpopular opinion, this anger should be reserved for every single crime that we see across our country, and it should not be colored by your political opinions and your political affiliations and which political party you support or belong to. Please reserve the same anger for every single crime, not just against a woman, but anyone in any part of our country. Let's hope that accountability for this will also be fixed. Thanks very much, gentlemen. Ravi Niranjan Desai and Aprajita Sarangi for joining me.